Hey guys, Jim here. I'm very excited to bring out to you this next installment, the next episode in my Guest Blade series. For those that are just kind of dropping in, may have just come across this video and haven't seen the other installments. My channel is devoted to my personal knife collection, kind of showing those to you, talking about them, and just basically sharing my passion and my love for production, mid-tech, and custom knives. And what I've begun to do recently is, and again, this was started about a month ago. This was started by just talking to some fellow collectors, and one of them, many of you know, the Bob. We started talking about this one knife in particular. He's like, oh, you've got to play with one of these. It's the most amazing thing. He sends it out to me, and I shot a video. And through that couple of days of fondling and playing with that knife, I began to fall more and more in love with it. Now I own 3 of that knife, which was the R.J. Martin Q36. And I said, this would be a really great idea to do this in the future. And then I started getting offers from a couple of people, and it just kind of snowballed. Now it's kind of getting out of control. Y'all don't have to offer anything else. I've got probably the next 10 episodes sewn up now. So what I do here is a fellow collector will send in a knife to me to get my impressions on and my slant on things. In this particular case, I've got to give a huge thank you to somebody that most of you, if you're a hardcore collector, you already know the name. If you're just in the YouTube community and not really in the forums and whatnot, he may not have popped up on your radar yet. His name is Justin Laffer. He does have a YouTube channel. I think it's called Laffer JC. Yeah, Laffer JC, Laffer. I'll put a link down in the description. Justin is one of the most prolific collectors I know. And it's not even about the size of his collection. It's about the unique nature in which he collects things. Everything is a unique, rare, special type of knife. And this is certainly no exception. This is a Brad Southard. It's a prototype. It does not carry a name. It's a Mokuti and titanium bolster lock. And this is one of many Southards that Justin owns. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Brad Southard is his absolute favorite maker. And he speaks very highly of him. I guess they've built up a personal relationship over time. And, Justin's just that kind of guy. I mean, I haven't known him all that long. And already, we just kind of hit it off really great. Obviously, he's sending me a knife that's almost completely invaluable at this point. He's an infectious kind of guy. You'd think a person with a collection like his would be a little bit stuck up or a little snobbish, and he's just so not like that. So it's a refreshing change of pace, and I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to get to know him as I have thus far, and hopefully more in the future. All right, that's enough on Justin. Let's talk about the knife. What you're looking at here is what I think something tremendously special. I have a couple of bolster locks myself. I'm a fan. For those that have not had a bolster lock, what in essence you're looking at is kind of the best of both worlds between a Chris Reeve frame lock and a liner lock. So you don't have the worry in a frame lock of not being able to put a beautiful material on your lock side. And you're not dealing with, a lot of people look at a liner lock as being somehow weak, or I'm not going to go into that whole discussion. But you've got the benefit of both. This is basically a frame lock that has a scale over it. And with that, it gives support to that lock bar, also prevents you from overextending it. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. We'll go into the materials and construction in a minute. I do want to talk for a moment about Brad Southard. Most people know Brad Southard's name just because of the collaboration that he did with Spyderco. And that knife has turned into a legend. The Spyderco Southard flipper. It seems like almost everybody in the world loves it. Most people that own it say it's the best production knife they've ever held. One of the best flipping knives they've ever held. And they hold it in extremely high regard. And it's a really nice medium-priced knife to get your hands on. It's made for work. It's a super tough knife. It's not overly pretty. It's made to, perform, as an EDC knife. I might be the only person on the planet that's not a fan of that knife. just because I'm not into the whole banana-shaped blade sort of thing. Now, I understand its utilitarian nature and it's going to be an excellent performer for almost every cutting task you can think of. It just doesn't appeal to me. I have plenty of utilitarian knives that I can beat up and bang up. So I do put aesthetics quite high on the list on any future knives that I pick up. But there's no arguing the success. There's no arguing the quality. But what a lot of people don't know is really who Brad Southard is. Like a lot of knife makers, he's educated in industrial design. He went to college for that. And he's done woodworking and all kinds of cool stuff. And through the metalworking experience, he started making tools. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere that he started making tools for his woodworking. So he kind of got more and more interested in that. He decided to kind of evolve that a bit, taking on an interest in knives, and it was a hobby. And this is what I love about this. It was a hobby that was turned into a career. So in my estimation, that means that his work is driven more by passion than for just a way to make money. And there are knife makers out there that you can see very clearly in the representations of their work, that they're in it to make money. And you can see the certain ones that are artists and are doing it for the passion of the art or the passion of the knife making or the passion of the two combined. And from what I see in Brad Southard's designs, that's how I look at it. The way he designs a knife is all about form follows function. It's not, the primary concern isn't about the aesthetics. It's about, will this knife perform for the type of task that I'm designing it for? If it's going to be a slicer, if it's going to be a chopper, whatever it's going to be, it doesn't really matter. That's what's going to go into the design first, and then he'll focus on the comfort of it, all the ergonomics, which I'll tell you in a few minutes he has mastered on this one. And then he worries about how it's going to look aesthetically. So what you've got in pretty much anything he's going to make is the perfect knife, depending on your needs and the size and everything else. But once you've narrowed down what those specific needs are and he makes a knife for you for those needs, you really don't need to look any further. It's one of those kind of knives that you just hold it and go, huh, it works flawlessly, it's comfortable, it's easy to carry, it's everything that I need. And then hopefully you're attracted to the style that's been worked into it. So let's talk about the materials a little bit. When you look at a typical Brad Southard, he makes pretty big knives, pretty thick knives. This is only about an inch from scale to scale. So this was designed specifically, from what I understand, kind of by consumer request, to make something a little bit slimmer and to make something a little bit prettier. Again, his knives are made to work. They're going to be slightly overbuilt, not to the crazy overbuilt rage that we're seeing now with your Holbachs and your Medfords and Direwares and whatnot, but stout, sturdy, thick blade stock, nice amount of titanium in the handle, enough to really get a job done, and not really to be an overly pretty knife or a show knife. And this was a prototype that he made for the Tactical Invitational to kind of display what he can do when he sets his mind to making something collector's grade, something beautiful. And again, I'm saying collector's grade as far as the beauty of the representation of the design. His work is exemplary. When you start talking about collector's grade, everything's there. I'm just talking about the overall beauty of it. So what you've got here is, it was a little tricky to measure because of the way the bolster is cut. So I just went from the end of the bolster to the tip. It's just about a 4-inch blade with a 3 3/4 inch cutting edge. This is a Bowler M390 steel with a hand-rubbed satin finish. I'm going to try to give you some nice macro shots. The two most difficult things to do are a hand-rubbed satin and a true full-on mirror polish. This is flawless, and it actually exhibits both because he does a polish in the finger choil and a polish down the spine. This is as beautiful and flawless as you could ever ask for. Now, I like M390 because it's a very, very tough steel, very resistant to chipping, and it provides exemplary wear resistance. It's actually higher rated than S30V. So if you've ever had, Chris Reeve or whatever else in S30V, and you were impressed with the edge retention that it had, this is going to be even better. Bowler also calls it their micro clean steel, so it can actually take a polish up to a true mirror polish, and I think that gives the maker a lot more flexibility in his finishing options. There are some steels you cannot mirror polish. This is one that you can, so you could do pretty much anything you want. You want to do your various stone washes, acid etching, you want to hand rub satin, you want to do mirror polish. There really are no limitations with this particular steel. I love everything, the way this was done. Beautiful, I mean absolute microscopic paper thin hollow grind. This is going to be one hell of a slicer. There's a decent amount of belly to the blade, so it's going to be good for pretty much any task that you could throw at it, because again, that's his primary concern. To talk about the smoothness of this knife, it's almost ridiculous. Brad has employed the use of ceramic bearings. And a lot of people kind of contest, are ceramic bearings really worth it over standard IKBS steel bearings or GTC steel bearings? The whole point really is it is going to be, the operation will be a little bit smoother. It may not be noticeable to everyone, but it is going to be a smoother operation. The other great thing is they're anti-corrosive. They're not going to rust. There's not going to be any corrosion issues whatsoever because ceramic can't be corroded. The other nice thing is they can't wear down over time. If you're like me, man, when I get my flippers, I am flipping the shit out of them all the time, breaking them in. Once they're broken in, I'm still flipping them because I'm enjoying the action. I'm having fun with my knife. I bought it, I paid for it, I'm going to use it, I'm going to enjoy it. And over a certain amount of time, those ball bearings, steel rubbing on steel, something has to give. And there's going to be some wear. With ceramic, you're not really going to have that concern. All right, continuing on with the materials, let's talk about the scales and the pocket clip. What you're getting here is called Mokuti. Mokuti is really, really exotic, really expensive, really cool material. It was actually created by Chad Nichols. And you guys know Chad Nichols Damascus is some of the finest Damascus money can buy. What this is, it's a laminate made from commercially pure titanium and the titanium alloy 6AL4V. 6AL4V is what we see typically, I'll just reach over and grab one of my knives. You look at like this Hoback Quayback, which I still have yet to do the review on. This is 6AL4V. Super tough stuff. It's not pure titanium, but really, really, it's a great compound. And that's really what we commonly see. So this is a mix, a laminate of the two combined. So it's just like making any other Damascus. It's layers and layers and layers and layers. So it's made in a slightly different method than the way Timascus is made. They each have their own patent for Timascus and Mokuti. It's a similar deal, but it's processed in a different manufacturing way. The cool thing about this is it's completely impervious to corrosion and tarnishing. And a lot of people look at Damascus or Timascus or Mokuti and go, that's just too pretty to carry. It's too pretty, it's too delicate. Actually, it's not. It's not delicate in any way. This is a nice, super tough material, fine grade quality. You don't have to worry about it rusting, about it taking on any kind of patina. It's not going to age. It's always going to look this beautiful. Now, I want you to take a really good look at the fitment of all these components. The back spacer integrating into the titanium frame. Excuse my thumb, I've been playing with my Hoback a little bit too much and there's still a lot of grease at the pivot. Into the Mokuti. The almost seamless integration of all these parts. The custom-made pivot. Centering of the blade. I love how he uses every bit of this frame to put that blade into. There's no excess frame left over or anything else, yet I can't snag that, even with the skin of my thumb going through. I don't snag the tip. This is perfect. You look at the forming of that pocket clip. Now here's the most amazing part. Brad does not employ the use of a CNC or water jet. All of this is done by hand. So everything is created, sculpted, and fitted completely by hand. Now this is going to account for the rarity and exclusivity of his knives. You don't see people selling them because they are so perfect, they are so desirable. He can only put out so many because they are done by hand, by one man. The secondary market prices on any Southard is crippling. It really is. Especially to somebody, average, normal, regular, everyday collector like you and me. That's why I love doing these guest blade segments, because we get the chance to experience together knives that we're probably never going to see in our lifetime. I can't tell you what I would do to own this knife or a knife similar to it made by Brad. It's just never going to happen. You're not going to get on his books. That's just the way it is. Nobody really sells them. You got to know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy to maybe possibly get one for 5 times the amount that it initially sold for from Southard. So it's just one of those deals, it's like trying to get a Rexford, or, it's just the way it is. So we get a chance here on these episodes to sample these knives, see them up close, see what they can do, and experience their beauty, if only for a fleeting moment. You've got a beautiful, gentlemanly flipper here. And the action, it's hard to describe. It's not like my RJ Martin, where you fire it and it just comes screaming out. But it has a particular smoothness that's almost impossible to put into words. Now, you guys know I typically like a flipper that I can rock back on, and you can do that with this, and it's going to make it to full lock, not an issue whatsoever. This is a flipper that prefers to be pushed in, and when you do, it's going to fire a lot harder. And you can hear that. See if we can get it a little bit closer to the mic. And listen to it as it releases. Great detent. I'll try to show you the detent as it drops back in place. Just sucks it in perfectly. The action is fluid and smooth. Let's get it to unlock, get it past that point, and drop it back down. Now it's not so smooth that it becomes a hazard. We've all had knives like that. We're like, oh, I love how smooth this is. And you get it right past where the detent tries to engage the tang of the blade, and then it drops down on your thumb. That's a little bit dangerous. This was just made to every perfect specification. Everything about it, even something as subtle as the way he's treated the blasting on the titanium. It's just perfect. It's just right. Everything is even tone. Everything is perfectly done. The custom-made pivot that's still made serviceable. All you need is a Torx. That's it. You don't need a fancy, ridiculous pivot tool, although you do have a fully custom-made pivot. The size of the flipper tab is perfect. It's not too large in a way to be obtrusive. It's not sharp on any corner. Everything has been dehorned and rounded. Perfect amount of jimping on there so that you get a solid purchase on it. Now, one of the things that Justin told me before he sent it, or as he sent it, was how insanely sharp it was. He goes, and the thing is, he sent this really cool note. He's like, I carry and I use all of my knives, period. He's just like I am in that fact. If I'm not going to carry or use a knife, I'll get rid of it. It doesn't belong in my collection. And he says, I carry and use my knives, so I damn well expect you to. Okay. I'm not going to abuse anybody's knife, especially one that I can't replace. But I just have to see on the flimsiest paper I have. Oh, dear God. Guys, that's Rockstead sharp. The only knife that I've had in my collection that is that sharp and that consistent were my Rocksteads. Period. Oh, that's not going to be fun. See, I just barely nicked my thumb there, and it took a little chunk of skin out there. Got to be careful when you're closing them damn knives there, boy. Hell's wrong with you? So to say that I'm impressed is a pretty severe understatement. I was actually going to be doing both knives that he sent me at one time. The other is this Todd Fisher. But as I looked at both of these knives, I went, they each need to have their own segments. My camera cuts me off right about 23 minutes or so. I'm approaching that now. And I knew I had to have at least 20 minutes to talk about the perfection that was built into this knife and my extreme admiration for the maker that crafted this. I don't know how many hours worth of work goes into something like this, but it is beyond reason to expect something this beautiful, no matter how much money you pay. I paid a lot of money for some of my knives, and there were little things here and there that weren't always perfectly correct. This is a stellar example of what premium knife making is, and what all of us should strive for as knife collectors. If you ever get a chance to get a custom Southard, don't hesitate. Do what you got to do to come up with the money and just get one, because I most certainly am going to be searching one out for myself. Not going to be for a while. I've spent a huge amount of money over the past few weeks. I'm cooling off for the next month or so, but got to tell you, that's amazing. Justin, once again, thank you for this opportunity. It has been one of the most amazing knives I've ever had a chance to play with. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. There are things that I had to gloss over. I didn't get to get into just because of how little time I've got. If I could do a two-part on this, I would, but it's got to go back to Justin at some point because I'm sure he's already missing it. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned because episode 6 will be on that Fisher double bolster that I just popped up there. I'll talk to you guys soon.